0400 hours, 12 miles east of Mischief Reef. The South China Sea is a sheet of black glass under a clouded moon. The humidity hangs heavy and thick over the steel decks of the destroyer, sticking to the gray paint like oil. Inside the Combat Information Center, the air conditioning hums a low, monotonous drone against the quiet. Green light from the radar consoles bathes the faces of the sailors in a sickly, artificial glow. The ship cuts through the water with a steady, rhythmic hiss as the bow splits the swell, leaving a trail of phosphorescent white foam in its wake. A sensor operator stiffens in his chair. He leans forward, wiping the screen with his sleeve, his eyes narrowing at a new amber blip pulsating on the outer rim. The contact is not a fishing boat or a merchant hauler. It moves with predatory speed, emerging rapidly from the radar shadow of the reef. The operator calls out the bearing. The tactical officer slams his hand on the alert button. The general quarters alarm screams through the passageways. The sound shatters the calm instantly. Sailors tumble out of their racks, boots pounding frantically against metal gratings. Watertight doors slam shut with heavy metallic clangs, sealing the ship into isolated steel compartments. The destroyer heels sharply to starboard as the gas turbine engines roar to full power, shaking the floor plates. The hull groans under the sudden torque. Topside, the massive main deck gun wakes up. The turret rotates with a mechanical whine, the long barrel lifting and traversing toward the dark horizon. The fire control radar locks onto the approaching shadow. Rain begins to spit across the deck, mixing with the salt spray. The captain stands on the bridge wing, binoculars pressed to his eye. He barks orders into the handset, demanding identification on the international distress frequency. The radio answers only with static. The enemy vessel closes the distance fast, its bow wave glowing white in the darkness. It is an enemy frigate. It signals its intent not with words, but with a sudden flash of light. A tracer round tears through the night sky. It screams over the bridge wing, missing the antenna array by feet. The air cracks with the violent sonic snap of the projectile. The captain drops the handset and grips the railing. The rules of engagement just shifted, from patrol to survival. 0408 hours, Combat Information Center. The red battle lighting pulses against the steel walls, casting long, jumping shadows. The hum of the engines vibrates aggressively through the soles of the sailors' boots. The tactical action officer grips the console, his knuckles white against the black plastic. On the main screen, the digital marker for the enemy frigate turns red. It swings its broadside toward the destroyer. "Weapons free!" the captain roars over the comms loop. The main deck gun responds instantly. The barrel recoils violently, sliding back into the turret housing with a mechanical scream. A massive tongue of orange flame leaps from the muzzle, illuminating the dark ocean for a split second. The shockwave punches the air, rattling the bridge windows. Empty brass casings, hot and smoking, clatter onto the steel deck with a heavy metallic ring. Thousands of yards away, the ocean erupts. A tower of white water shoots up just off the enemy frigate's port bow. The spray washes over their forward deck, blinding their bridge sensors. They do not retreat. The enemy ship digs its prow into the waves, accelerating into the chop. Flashes ripple along the enemy hull. Their forward cannon spits fire in rapid succession. The air above the destroyer tears open. A high-velocity shell slams into the water 50 yards off the starboard beam. The explosion heaves the ocean upward. A wall of salt water crashes down onto the helicopter deck, knocking a damage control team member off his feet. He slides across the wet, non-skid surface, slamming hard into the safety netting. "Hard to port! Flank speed!" the officer of the deck yells. He spins the wheel. The destroyer leans heavily. In the galley below, equipment slides across stainless steel tables. Ceramic plates shatter on the floor. The ship carves a sharp white scar into the black water, dodging the next incoming volley. Two more shells scream past the bridge, missing the radar mast by inches. The sound is like a ripping canvas, magnified 1,000 times. The gunnery officer adjusts the firing solution. The turret swivels 3 degrees right, The autoloader slams a fresh, high-explosive shell into the breach. The gun fires again. And again. The rhythm becomes a deafening, steady pounding. Boom. 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 The second round finds its mark. It smashes into the enemy frigate's forward railing. Metal shears like paper. The explosion shreds the anchor chains and sends jagged shrapnel spinning into the superstructure. Sparks shower the dark water. Black smoke instantly begins to pour from their bow, trailing behind them as they charge forward. 04:15 hours, 10 miles from the engagement zone. The distance closes rapidly. The two steel leviathans charge toward each other at a combined speed of 60 knots, turning the ocean into a chaotic arena of white foam and churning wakes. The air smells of sulfur and burnt ozone. On the bridge, the tactical display flickers as the ship vibrates constantly from the recoil of its own gun. Every 5 seconds, the main deck cannon punches the air, sending another 70-pound shell hurling toward the frigate. The enemy vessel refuses to turn away. It zigs violently to port, dodging a splash that sends a geyser of water higher than its mast. Its forward turret rotates, tracking the destroyer. A flash lights up its bow. "Brace for impact!" the executive officer yells. He grabs the overhead handrail. The enemy shell does not miss. It slams into the destroyer's midship superstructure, just aft of the smokestacks. The impact is deafening. Steel screams as it tears apart. The explosion rips a jagged 6-foot hole in the outer plating. A fireball erupts from the wound, venting superheated gas and debris out over the starboard ocean. The entire ship shudders violently, as if picked up and dropped by a giant hand. Inside the bridge, coffee mugs fly across the room. A radar technician is thrown from his chair, slamming hard against the bulkhead. The lighting system fails, plunging the room into darkness for a heartbeat, before the red emergency lights flicker back to life. "Damage report," the captain shouts, his voice cutting through the ringing in everyone's ears. Outside, the scene is carnage. Twisted metal grates smoke on the deck. A thick plume of black, oily smoke billows from the impact site, choking the air intake vents. Burning insulation falls like snow. "Fire in the auxiliary machine room," the intercom screeches. The voice is strained. "Class Bravo, fire! We're losing pressure in fire main 2. On the weather deck, a damage control team bursts out of a hatch. They drag heavy fire hoses across the slippery, non-skid surface. The leader signals with a frantic wave. Water pressure builds. They blast the roaring flames near the missile launchers. The ship heels hard to starboard again as the helmsman executes an emergency turn to unmask the rear phalanx cannon. The enemy frigate seizes the moment. Seeing the smoke rising from the destroyer, it accelerates. It fires again. A second shell clips the radio mast, sending sparks showering down onto the bridge windows like fireworks. 04:22 hours. Combat Information Center. The air is choked with haze from the ventilation system. Emergency alarms blare in a relentless, rhythmic cycle. The deck plates vibrate as the engines push past their redline limits. On the optical targeting screen, the enemy frigate fills the frame. It is less than 6 miles out now. Its forward gun flashes again, but the shot goes wide, splashing harmlessly into the wake off the stern. The enemy captain is getting greedy. He is closing for a guaranteed kill. "Match bearings! Shoot!" the gunnery officer screams. The destroyer's main gun adjusts. Hydraulic pumps hiss as the barrel lowers a fraction of an inch. The autoloader slams a specialized penetrating round into the chamber. The firing pin strikes. The gun roars. The recoil pushes the 9,000-ton ship sideways against the swell. The shell covers the distance in seconds, a blurred streak of steel against the black sky. It does not hit the water. It does not hit the hull. The round slams directly into the base of the enemy frigate's forward turret. The impact is catastrophic. The hardened steel armor shatters like glass. The kinetic energy transfers instantly into the magazine below the deck. A massive secondary explosion erupts. The entire forward section of the frigate disintegrates in a blinding white flash. The force of the blast shears the enemy turret clean off its mount. The 10-ton gun assembly flips into the air, spinning end over end before crashing into the sea with a massive splash. A fireball engulfs the enemy bridge. Thick black oil smoke mushrooms into the sky, blotting out the stars. The frigate lurches violently to port, its momentum broken. The bow dips low, buried under the weight of the water, pouring into the gaping hole where the gun used to be. Debris rains down on the ocean's surface for hundreds of yards. Burning metal, twisted railing, and pieces of radar equipment. "Target slows!" the radar operator calls out. "Speed dropping to 10 knots!" On the destroyer's bridge, the captain wipes soot from his forehead. He watches the burning wreck through the salt-stained glass. The enemy ship is crippled, its primary weapon destroyed. But the fight is not over. The enemy turns its stern. A hatch on their rear deck slides open. "Torpedo launch detected!" the sonar operator yells. The panic in his voice is sharp. 0425 hours, sonar control room. The audio landscape shifts instantly. The rhythmic thrum of the ocean disappears, replaced by a high-pitched, mechanical screech that pierces the headsets of every sonar technician. The digital waterfall display streaks with two bright, parallel lines. They move fast. Too fast for a ship. "Torpedoes in the water, bearing 270, the sonar supervisor yells. His voice cracks. "Range, 2,000 yards and closing." On the bridge, the captain does not hesitate. "Right full rudder, all ahead flank, deploy countermeasures." The helmsman spins the brass wheel until it locks against the stop. The destroyer reacts like a wounded animal. The 9,000-ton steel hull bites hard into the sea. The ship leans violently to starboard, heeling over 30 degrees. Gravity shifts. On the bridge, unsecure logbooks slide off the chart table and crash into the bulkhead. A coffee pot smashes. The deck becomes a wall. Sailors grab onto railings, consoles, and door frames, their boots slipping on the polished wax floors. Aft of the smokestacks, the decoy launchers fire. Thump, thump, thump. Canisters of acoustic jamming material arc into the night sky. They explode 50 yards from the ship, showering the water with confusion. The towed array decoy streams out behind the ship, emitting a loud electronic pulse, designed to mimic the sound of the ship's propellers. The first torpedo takes the bait. It veers sharply left, chasing the ghost signal. The second torpedo ignores the decoy. It stays locked on the destroyer's engine noise. "Brace for shock!" the tactical action officer roars over the 1MC. The wake of the torpedo is visible now. A distinct, frothy white streak cutting through the black water like a scar. It races toward the stern. The destroyer's propellers churn the water into a frenzy, trying to push the heavy tail out of the kill zone. The distance closes. 300 yards. 200. The torpedo passes the rudder by feet. It misses the hull, but detonates in the violent turbulence of the ship's wake. The ocean floor heaves. A massive underwater explosion hammers the stern of the destroyer. The shockwave travels through the water and slams into the steel keel. The entire ship whips like a tuning fork. Light bulbs burst in the passageways. Dust shakes loose from the overhead cabling. In the engine room, a steam pipe bursts, spraying superheated vapor across the lower level. Alarms scream. High water in the build. The hull plating held, but the vibration knocks the main air search radar offline. "Rudder amidships," the captain barks, pulling himself up from the console. "Get me a damage report on the screws." 0430 hours. Combat Information Center. The vibration from the underwater blast subsides. The deck plates stop humming. The destroyer steadies, cutting through the turbulent water left by the explosion. Emergency lights bathe the room in a dull crimson glow. Reports flow in from the engineering deck. The shafts are intact. The rudder responds. The ship is hurt, scarred, and leaking hydraulic fluid. But she is still fighting. Target is dead in the water, the surface warfare officer reports. Bearing 275. Range, 4,000 yards. On the main screen, the enemy frigate is a burning silhouette against the pre-dawn gray. Flames consume the bridge and forward deck, casting a flickering orange light over the dark ocean. The enemy ship lists 10 degrees to port. Thick black smoke pours from its shattered superstructure. It drifts aimlessly, its engines silent. They are not striking colors, the captain says. His voice is flat. Target the waterline, engineering section. End this. The main deck gun traverses one last time. The servo motors whine. The radar locks onto the center mass of the enemy hull, just above the rolling waves. The fire control computer calculates the lead, compensating for the sway of the sea. Battery 1, fire, the gunnery officer commands. The gun speaks. Boom. The shell leaves the barrel at twice the speed of sound. It crosses the gap in seconds. It strikes the enemy frigate precisely amidships, right at the waterline. The impact does not produce a fireball. It produces a geyser. The high explosive round punches through the outer hull plating and detonates inside the main engine compartment. The explosion blows the hull plating outward. A hole the size of a garage door rips open. The ocean rushes in. Thousands of tons of seawater surge into the enemy engineering space. Steam erupts from the funnel as the boilers are quenched. The frigate shudders violently. The list to port increases instantly. 10 degrees becomes 20, then 30. Loose equipment on the enemy deck begins to slide. Crates, ammo boxes, and debris tumble into the sea. The enemy crew abandons their stations. Tiny figures appear on the high side of the hull, jumping into the oil-slicked black water. The enemy ship groans, a deep, metallic moan that echoes across the water. The keel snaps under the uneven weight. The bow rises into the air. The stern is dragged down. Water washes over the burning bridge, extinguishing the fires with a loud hiss of steam. 0500 hours, South China Sea. The sun breaches the eastern horizon. It paints the heavy tropical clouds in streaks of violet and bruised orange. The wind dies down. The ocean returns to a deceptive, rhythmic calm. The enemy frigate is gone. A massive, shimmering slick of oil marks the grave. It spreads across the swells like a black stain, mixing with floating wooden crates, torn insulation, and yellow life jackets. There are no survivors visible in the chop. The sea has claimed them. On the destroyer, the silence is heavier than the gunfire. The general quarters alarm finally cuts off. The sudden quiet rings in the ears of the crew. Sailors emerge from the airtight hatches. They walk slowly, their movements heavy and stiff. Their blue coveralls are stained dark with sweat, grease, and soot. They line the starboard railing, staring at the empty water. No one speaks. No one cheers. Damage Control Team 2 stands near the missile deck. They stow their heavy hoses. The steel deck plating is still hot to the touch. Steam rises from the scorched metal where the fire raged, drifting up into the morning air. A gaping, jagged hole in the superstructure reveals twisted steel beams and blackened wiring hanging like guts. Two medics move quickly across the non-skid flight deck. They carry a stretcher between them. A young sailor lies on it, his leg wrapped in thick white gauze that is rapidly turning bright red. He grips the side of the stretcher, his knuckles white. He is awake. He stares up at the sky. On the bridge, the captain lowers his binoculars. He steps out onto the wing. He looks at the scarred hull of his ship. He looks at the black oil on the water. He picks up the radio handset. His hand shakes slightly, just once, before he grips the black plastic tight. All engines ahead 1/3, he orders. Set course for base. The destroyer turns its back on the debris field. The engines rumble low and steady. The bow cuts the water, heading west. The flag on the stern snaps in the morning breeze, gray with ash, but still flying. 0515 hours. Shipboard medical bay. The battle is over. But the bleeding has not stopped. The ship rolls gently in the swell, but the motion causes agony in the cramped triage center. The air smells of antiseptic, copper blood, and sweat. The lighting is harsh and fluorescent. The chief corpsman kneels on the tiled floor, his uniform soaked red. "Pressure! Hold the pressure!" he screams. On the surgical table, a gunner's mate gasps for air. A piece of shrapnel from the bridge, hit, is embedded in his chest cavity. The monitor emits a frantic, irregular beeping. The ship hits a rogue wave. The table shifts. Instruments slide across metal trays with a sharp clatter. The lights flicker as the ship's main generator struggles with the load from the damage control pumps. "We are losing him," a young medic whispers. His hands shake as he holds the saline bag. Deep inside the hull, the fight to save the ship itself continued. In the auxiliary machinery room, water rises around the ankles of the engineers. A pipe flange, cracked by the earlier torpedo shockwave, finally bursts. A high-pressure jet of hydraulic fluid sprays across the hot casing of a pump. White smoke hisses instantly. Sparks shower down. The fire alarm, previously silenced, begins to scream again. "Class Bravo fire! Reflash in aux 2! The voice over the intercom is terrified. "Get the foam! Now!" Exhausted sailors in heavy fire suits stumble back into the smoke-filled corridor. They thought the fight was done. It is not. The enemy is gone, but the ship is trying to kill them. 0600 hours. The flight deck. The sun is fully up now, beating down on the wet steel. The heat creates a shimmering haze over the ocean. The destroyer holds a steady course, but she is limping. Smoke still vents intermittently from the midship wound. "Helicopter inbound," the air boss announces. ETA 2 minutes. The thumping sound of rotor blades cuts through the humid air. A Seahawk rescue helicopter approaches from the south, its nose dipped low. It hovers over the rear deck, kicking up a storm of spray and the downwash whips the clothes of the deck crew, stinging their faces with seawater. The ship cannot stop moving. The stabilizers are damaged. The deck pitches up and down, a moving target for the pilot. "Steady, steady," the landing signal officer chants into his headset. The helicopter wheels touch the non-skid surface. The suspension compresses. The medical team bursts through the hangar doors. They run low, hunched over against the rotor wash, carrying the stretcher. The wounded gunner's mate is strapped down, an oxygen mask over his face. They load him into the open side door of the helicopter. The movement is fast, practiced, and desperate. The corpsman jumps in after him. He gives a thumbs up to the deck crew. The helicopter engines whine as they spool up to maximum power. It lifts heavily, banking away toward the carrier group over the horizon. The sailors on deck watch it go. They are left alone again on the crippled ship. "Secure the flight deck," the bosun calls out. "We aren't done yet. Get that debris over the side." 0800 hours. Rendezvous point. The ocean is blue and calm. The violence of the night feels like a hallucination, except for the scars on the ship. The destroyer moves at a slow 12 knots. The paint on the starboard side is blistered and peeled away, revealing raw, blackened steel. The radar mast is bent. The railing is gone. On the horizon, a gray shape appears, then another. It is the rest of the strike group. A massive cruiser leads the formation, followed by a replenishment oiler. They cut through the water with majestic, untouched precision. "Bridge, this is strike leader," the radio crackles. The voice is clear, calm, and American. "Welcome back. We have you on visual. Support teams are standing by." The captain stands on the bridge wing. He lights a cigarette, ignoring regulations for the first time in 20 years. He takes a long drag and exhales a cloud of gray smoke that drifts away in the wind. He looks down at his crew on the foredeck. They are exhausted. They are covered in soot. They are sitting on ammunition crates, drinking warm water from plastic bottles. But they are alive. The captain presses the button on the 1MC intercom. "This is the captain," he says. The static clears. The enemy is destroyed. The ship is secure. You did your duty. Stand down from general quarters. Set condition 3. A cheer does not go up. There is no energy left for cheering. Instead, there is a collective exhale. Shoulders drop. Men lean against bulkheads. The destroyer slides into formation alongside the oiler, a battered prize fighter returning to its corner. The wake churns white behind them, washing away the memory of the night.